And so we're going to be talking about Gunko, and we're also going to be talking about her backstory. So with that being said, it's your boy Drac. We're coming back here with some more theories, more speculation. So let's go ahead and lock in. And so Gunko, around this time, they would be around the age of a teenager. So 17, 18, 19, somewhere along those lines. Because as we have this understanding from 1173, Brooke has said that she's nearly 80 years old. So with that being said, 56 years ago, that is whenever we were seeing Gunko and Imu within the Chamber of Flowers, which that would be making Gunko around the ages of 22, 23, or 21. So whenever it's coming to this timeline, this is where I'm getting it all from. So from 57 years ago and beyond, this is whenever Imu would then take an interest within the kingdom that Princess Shuri is from, in which they would then make a contract with them. And so whenever it comes to, the similar thing that happened with Loki with the Holy Knights attempting to actually bring him a part of their fold, that same similar thing happened to this kingdom. Now, the reason why Imu taking interest into this kingdom would most likely be because of this blue hair that associates with most likely the mother of Gunko and then of course herself. But with also Brooke being from this nation that we're assuming that he's from, they also have this music application. So it most likely has this music that has these magical properties, something along those lines. So whenever it comes to the terms of this contract, it would be they take Princess Shuri. In exchange, they are then going to make this kingdom under the banner of the world government. Now, we all know Harold. He is this person that wanted to have this naive understanding and that it was going to be better for his people. Now we need to take an inverse of that and make it to where Gunko's dad was most likely an asshole. So then Gunko's father is like, all right, cool. So you take my daughter in exchange for this protection under the world government. So now we can then progress further within our stature. So if you don't know about Gunko's personality, she gets very frustrated whenever you are not hearing her, in which she is actually to have this personality of being ruthless, mission orientated, and things of that nature. So of course she would get this ruthlessness and pleading because she does not want to leave, because she also has this dream of becoming a pirate alongside Brooke. Gunko's dad brushes this off, not really caring. He then accepts this deal. So with Gunko's dad agreeing to the terms of this contract, they then leave, they bring that information back to Imu, and then they are going to return. When they actually come back to return, this is whenever Gunko's father dies to Gunko's hand. And so Gunko understands that her father is not going to care for her, and most likely never did in the first place, if she is going to then be put up for this contract to allow for their country to then be put up into a different stature. So then she takes him out. During that same time, however, this is whenever we are seeing Brooke then witness this whole thing happening. However, Brooke is indebted to this king, and he most likely didn't have that full understanding of how his personality really worked behind closed doors. He most likely had a face that he would put on in front of Brooke and everybody else, except for the people that was actually in his circle, so his family. Whenever you are seeing Brooke blame Gunko in 1173, he really doesn't have the full context of what was really truly going on. After these Holy Knights go and retrieve Gunko, this island is no longer there. It never existed. Because I don't think that Imu had really any true intentions of actually holding weight to the deal that she made, which is my understanding on why there's no information about this kingdom at all and where Brooke and Gunko actually come from, because it's gone. Now I need to talk about these contracts because it's going to make a lot more sense on why Gunko is actually able to be taken over by Imu. So as we know, this is the Shallows Covenant. So this is the first step into actually becoming a Holy Knight itself. This is the devoted blade of God that they keep talking about. Mind you, 38 years ago, this is whenever we are still seeing that Gunko only has the Shallows Covenant. She was called the devoted blade of God. However, since Gunko was always in the radius of Imu, they never had the chance to actually listen to anything else outside of Imu's orders. However, as we know, as you get to the Depths Covenant, that is whenever you get this supernatural strength. You get the immortality. However, once you get to that Abyssal Covenant, there's no information on it. We haven't seen it yet. We don't even know what the mark even looks like. I believe that there's a reason for that. So as we know, Imu has only taken over two people, Saturn and Gunko. So whenever it comes to this Abyssal Covenant, that allows for Imu to then take control of this person's body. However, I believe that there is a crux whenever it comes to this ability of taking over people's bodies. Memories. So if the memory actually has this strong emotion, it then disrupts Imu's control over that person's body, which is why we are then seeing this back and forth between Imu and Gunko. This would be that very similar thing that we are seeing that was happening to Gunko whenever Brooke was bringing up things from their past. This also just leads further into why this kingdom was actually destroyed. If there's no one to actually remind Gunko of anything of her past, then there's nothing that can stop the control of this Abyssal Covenant between Imu and Gunko. Mind you, the entire time while Imu was in control of Saturn, there was nothing that any of these people could say memory-wise or anything to disrupt this, because nobody even knows Saturn because he's been alive for 200 years. Everybody that does know Saturn, they're dead. So whenever we are seeing in 1173, whenever Brooke is actually talking about Gunko and then there's this break, there's this disruption, and then Imu gets extremely pissed off talking about what is your relation to thy Gunko? Because Imu knows If this memory and all these things that Brooke is able to remember about Gunko's past and just remembering her in general, and it causes this strong emotion, there can be a disruption between Imu and Gunko and the control of the body. So Imu most likely didn't have any knowledge about Brooke actually being from the same kingdom that Gunko also comes from. So then this is pretty much a crux within this plan of actual control. Because mind you, within this game that Imu is playing, because it's all just a big game, memories are vital. The past and every information that you can still retain is important, which is why Imu is always erasing something. Because if you can't remember, then you can't allow for something to then progress. But of course, that is everything that I have on Gunko's backstory and just the Abyssal Covenant in general, because we don't have that much information about it anyway. So with that being said, it's your boy Drac, and I'm going to catch you boys in the next one. Message.